Well, yes, I'll take you through the details. Well, after the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, or the CDSCO, flagged 53 commonly used medicines for failing quality tests, several pharma companies have defended the quality of their products. In its August 2024 report, the CDSCO declared over 50 drugs as not of standard quality, or NSQ, including essential medicines by major companies like Alkem's Clavim 625 and Pandi, Sun Pharma's Pantocid and Palmosil, and Glenmark's blood pressure drug Telma H. Now, Sun Pharma, Glenmark and Alkem have responded, stating that the flagged batches were spurious and not manufactured by them. Torrent Pharma issued a similar statement regarding Shelcal 500. The Indian Pharma Alliance, which is IPA, represents around 23 pharma companies, including the likes of Sun Pharma, Lupin and Cipla, stressed that NSQ and spurious drugs should not be mixed up, as it wrongfully implicates legitimate manufacturers. NSQ drugs may have labeling issues or incorrect ingredients, while spurious drugs are fake copies. The IPA warned that linking spurious drugs to legitimate companies could damage reputation and harm India's standing as a reliable drug exporter. Meanwhile, experts like activist Dinesh Thakur suggest that the CDSCO publish investigation details to determine if flagged drugs are counterfeit or genuine, and is easy to access this kind of data, as pharmacies are required by law to have records of all drugs. Now, the outcome of the investigation would be crucial, according to experts. As experts point out, spurious drugs on our hands would be a far greater problem to solve. According to a 2022 study by ASSOCHAM, around 25 out of 100 drugs are fake, counterfeit or substandard in the country. In fact, the latest case making headlines has been antibiotics supplied to the government hospitals in Maharashtra were actually just talcum powder mixed with starch. Meanwhile, the government and companies have been taking important steps to curb the spurious drugs menace. For example, all large companies have incorporated unique features and QR codes in its packaging to ensure genuine products are differentiated from fakes. The government has also been active. For example, they revoked licenses of 18 pharma companies in December 2023, increased quality checks and increased inspections as well. However, experts point out the need of the hour might be greater vigilance and possible tightening of regulations and implications around it as well. Well, let's continue our discussion with regards to spurious drugs, the difference between that as well as not of standard quality, and the latest August 2024 report by the CDSCO. We have with us Mr. Reddy, the MD and CEO at MedPlus Health Services, and we have Rajeshwari Hariharan, who is a counsel at the Delhi High Court, who will be joining us shortly. Well, Mr. Reddy, let's start with you. You have run around 4,400 pharmacies that you run across India. Give us a sense in terms of whether you all have tackled this spurious drugs problem at your pharmacies, and how does one recognize it?
Let me just take a quick minute to tell you how I started the company. I'd actually written a business plan in Wharton in 2005, when I came across an article which said that 30% of all fake drugs in the world are made in India. So the plan, I set up the company in 2006, primarily to give a USP, or to make sure that everyone got genuine medicines, had access to genuine medicines. So we have been looking at this problem from the time we started, and the way we tackle it is we work directly with the companies in procuring the products. A lot of times, small retailers who can't have access to the distributor or the CNF agent end up buying through wholesalers and small third-party sellers, from where they end up actually getting these fake drugs. So for us, given that we buy directly, we have not seen that problem at all.
Okay, so you haven't seen the problem arise at all till now. But we do have Rajeshwari, who's from the Delhi High Court, joining in to discuss this as well. Rajeshwari, thanks very much for taking the time out from a busy day. But if you could just give us a sense in terms of how serious this issue is, which the CDSCO has flagged off, about these 53 drugs, many of them from very legitimate companies such as Sun Pharma and the rest.
So there are two issues here. The kind of drugs that the CDSCO has now banned is a different category altogether. These are drugs which are combinations. So what has now been banned is a combination of an existing drug. So this is not necessarily a spurious drug. Now, when you talk about spurious drug, that's a completely different category. Spurious drugs are those where the drug is either adulterated or the active ingredient is completely different, or it is somehow mixed. It's not the actual thing which is promised to be. So, for example, if they're supposed to be selling antibiotics, then the drug in the container will not actually contain antibiotics. It might just contain something else, or it might be adulterated with something, or it might just have completely different ingredients, or it might have been expired. That is the category of spurious drugs. The ones that the CDSCO has now banned are drugs which are of good quality, but they are in the market for some time, but people have made combinations. So they've made a combination of maybe an antibiotic with some other cough drug or something like that. So it's just a combination which the CDSCO has banned. There is a lot of history to this, because in the past also the CDSCO had banned certain drugs. Then the Supreme Court had come down very heavily on them and said that, all right, you want to ban the drugs, then you need to have a rationale as to why you will ban it. You have to study the drugs. You have to establish a committee. The committee will go through it. If the committee finds that this is an irrational combination, or
I
finds
just
that the
want you to help
combination
us
is maybe
differentiate.
not good,
I just want you to
Yes,
help us
it must
differentiate between what is a not for standard quality drug, because that could be even just labeling issues, and what is the penalty for, say, manufacturing a spurious drug?
this penalty for manufacturing a spurious drug is quite drastic under the Act. In fact, if you are caught having spurious drugs, then the Act provides for criminal action. In fact, your director can be behind the bars. So it's that very serious. Your factory can be seized, it can be locked. So there are very serious consequences of selling spurious drugs. So spurious drug is one which is not of a standard quality. It differs from the standard either because it's expired or it has adulteration, something like that. That is spurious.
All right, we take that point. Let's go back to Mr. Reddy. Mr. Reddy, of the sales that you do, what are the overlaps between, say, something like not of standard quality, and how do you tackle that menace? I mean, one understands that spurious drugs can be taken care of by buying directly from the company or authorized dealers from the company, which someone like you with over 4,000 stores are able to do that. But of drugs which are of not standard quality, or say, as Ms. Hariharan was saying, that some of these combinations which may not be, approved, how do you tackle that? And what proportion, according to you, would be that in the overall market?
So again, the differentiation is between fake, which is outright fake. Some XYZ company makes a drug and basically sells it off as a Sun Pharma or a Dr. Reddy's or whatever brand out there. Very easy to do that because, today packaging industry has come a long way. It's very difficult to make out what the drug is inside that. And the fact that there are 10,000 odd manufacturing companies, I'm pretty sure a lot of them really don't have significant business. A lot of these guys will fall prey to this, will go and basically make it for someone, and it's very easy to actually get that done. So that is a different, quality class of drug altogether. That's the fake drug, right? We don't let that ever come into our system because we're buying directly from the company. One. On the not for standard quality, that's a different story altogether. It's almost impossible to tell. And I'm assuming that any of the top brands out there will always be of standard quality. I don't think there's any, problem at all. The top brands, they make these in the best qualities, best kind of settings possible. They have standard operating procedures out there. We ourselves have seen that a lot. We ourselves get our own drugs made in the same factories in which these guys get them made. I don't think there's any problem out there. But once in a while, there could be something out there, and those are easily recalled. And not of standard quality could mean, let us say the dissolution profile is not exactly right, or maybe the assay is not showing the exact amount of quantity of drug which is required. 95 to 105% is the amount of API required in a drug. So it could be slightly lesser, and so someone could, on a random check, pull it. But I haven't seen any instance in which a top brand has been basically pulled up for NSQ. Now, it is possible that someone has found the drug and said this, this top brand is actually not of the right quality, But that in my mind is probably because that company never even made the drug. Someone else made it and passed it off as this company's drug.
So
Okay, so just on that point, Mr. Reddy, you know, I just wanted to understand that you all have a private label that you all sell drugs through as well. So now, how do you ensure that there's no kind of contamination, no kind of spurious drugs coming through? Do you have a QR code which you implement on all of your drugs? Or is it, you know, going against the ethos that you want to keep your costs low? So how exactly do you ensure this?
See, for us, when it is our own drug, it is the most tightly integrated supply chain, right? We are going directly to the company. We're making sure they're making it the right way. We are testing it. After they test it, we also test it. Then it goes into our system and it is sold only in our stores. So the MedPlus drug is not sold anywhere else at all. So if you are buying a MedPlus drug from the MedPlus store, there is absolutely no chance of it being a fake. And as far as quality is concerned, we are getting them made in the same factories in which all the top companies are getting them made. In fact, we actually 90% of our stuff is just made in around 4 factories, and these are 4 of the best contract drug manufacturing companies in the country, on par with anything else in the world. So we get all of these made, so we're very, very sure about the quality, and we're not selling elsewhere. No one else is selling MedPlus drugs. So you can be sure if you're buying a MedPlus drug, it is guaranteed to be genuine.
Okay. Just before we wrap this up, Rajeshwari, you know, that ASSOCHAM report indicates 25 out of 100 drugs in India are spurious. Can you give us a sense, how do we curb this menace? Do you need to sort of strengthen your penalties when it comes to spurious drugs? Where does one need to sort of strengthen the supply chain?
So we have to, I think, tackle it on both fronts. One, of course, we need to have more stringent laws, and as soon as we find a counterfeit or a fake drug, obviously we need to take extremely stringent action. Second, with regard to the drug per se, so that the consumer is able to be, able to find out whether it is a fake or not, probably you need to have some more stringent, maybe on the packaging, you need to have some kind of, not holograms, but some kind of an OTP system, some kind of systems, maybe, some kind of technology integrated systems. So the consumer will be able to know that, okay, the drug which I am purchasing, the link which I now have, the package or the product that I now have purchased is actually a genuine one. And you should be able to authenticate it in some way, either by way of, hologram which cannot be taken out, or some other technological intervention should be there so that we are able to, the consumer is able to find. Ultimately, it is the consumer, who is affected by this, and consumer is the one who is going to suffer. So that's the reason why at both ends we need to tackle it, and perhaps this should also become part and parcel of the law. And I believe the drug controllers and the pharma companies are working towards that, because pharma companies want the consumer to get genuine drugs. I don't think there's a single pharma company, good pharma company, who wants really, bad drugs to come to people.
Take that point. Thanks a lot, Ms. Hariharan and Mr. Reddy, for joining in and throwing light to this important topic. The key takeaway from here on